Hey guys, welcome to our weekly Indian startup news show here at Backstage with Millionaires. I'm Caleb, your host, and we've got a pretty jam-packed week to talk about. We have Karnataka's High Court revoking the FIR filed against Dream11's founders. We also have Navi Technologies and their plans to file for an IPO as early as next week, as well as Meesho's plans to go public in 2023. And of course, we also have the latest Indian startup unicorn of 2022. And we're going to be talking about all of these things and more coming up right after this. Alright, so first up in the news, the Karnataka High Court has finally quashed the FIR that was filed against the founders of Dream11, Harsh Jain and Bhavit Seth, back in 2021. So last year in September, Karnataka had amended the Karnataka Police Act of 1963, which banned all forms of online gambling in the state, including fantasy gaming platforms like MPL and Dream11. Now, in light of this ban, most fantasy gaming platforms ceased their operations, but Dream11 continued to operate in the state despite the ban. And this was because Dream11's fantasy sports were recognized as a game of skill by the Supreme Court and didn't fall under the category of gambling. However, soon after deciding to continue their operations, an FIR was filed against Dream11's founders, and they had to stop Dream11's operations in the state as a result. Then though, just last month, the Karnataka High Court struck down the amendments that were made to the Karnataka Police Act of 1963, basically reversing the decision that was originally made, which caused the FIR to be filed against Dream11's founders. And now that there's no law prohibiting Dream11 from operating in the state, the FIR seems pointless, and so the Karnataka High Court quashed the FIR. Alright, next up in the news, let's talk a little bit about Navi Technologies potentially filing for an IPO as early as this week, according to media reports. So by the time you're watching this video, they might have already filed for their IPO, or they might be filing for it next week. Now, one thing that's really interesting about Navi Technologies is that Sachin Bansal owns 97% of the company. He's avoided raising funds from VCs, which might be because of the experience that he had raising funds from VCs back in his Flipkart days. Instead, he's decided to fund most of the company's growth and operations using his own money. And another good sign for potential investors is the fact that Navi is only going to be issuing fresh shares for this IPO, meaning that none of the pre-existing investors will be selling their stake in the company. Now, so far, Sachin Bansal has invested 4,000 crore rupees into Navi Technologies, and that's also the size of the initial public offering, 4,000 crore rupees. And it's expected that they're going to actually launch their IPO in June of 2022. Now, in other IPO news, it looks like Indian social commerce unicorn Meesho is also going to be going public, but in early 2023, and they're still not sure if they're going to be going public in India or in the United States. Now, Meesho was last valued at $4.9 billion, and so far they've raised $1.1 billion from their investors. And according to Ntracker, Meesho is still a loss-making startup. Now, we'll of course know more about their financials when they file their DRHP, but for the time being, what we know is that their operating revenue for the financial year of 2020 was 307 crore rupees, which is a 3.8x jump from their 80 crore rupee operating revenue in the financial year of 2019. Alright, moving on to some acquisition news now. InfoEdge, the company that owns platforms like Naukri.com, Jeevansati.com, 99acres.com, and Shiksha.com, has acquired a 76% stake in online dating startup Aisle. So with this acquisition, InfoEdge wants to strengthen their position in India's matchmaking space. And they already have Jeevansati.com geared towards marriage, so now Aisle could help them to enter India's rapidly growing online dating market as well. Now, InfoEdge is going to be taking a bit of a hands-off approach here. They're going to allow Aisle's founder and CEO, Abel Joseph, to continue to run the company, but of course he'll gain access to InfoEdge's vast resources and ecosystem. Also, in the last 2 years, Aisle's user base has grown by 100%, and today they have more than 6.5 million users on their platform. Alright, moving on to some funding news now. India has its 11th startup unicorn of 2022, CredAvenue, which is an online debt marketplace for startups and businesses to secure loans from banks and NBFCs. So CredAvenue has raised $137 million in a funding round led by Insight Partners, B Capital, and Dragoneer at a $1.3 billion valuation, which is a more than 3x jump from their September of 2021 valuation of $410 million. So incredibly, CredAvenue has become a unicorn in just 18 months. The startup was founded in 2020, and so far they've helped 2,300 corporates and 450 enterprises to secure loans worth $10.5 billion. They're going to be using these funds to expand their India business and to fuel their inorganic growth through acquisitions. All right, next up in the funding news, fintech startup MoneyView, which offers personal loans and buy now, pay later options to its users, has raised $75 million at a $625 million valuation. MoneyView has raised these funds from Tiger Global, Winter Capital, Evolvence India, Accel, South Park Commons, Trusted Insight, and Dream Incubator. And according to MoneyView, they're onboarding 1 million users every single month, and their platform caters currently to 200 million users. Also, more than 75% of their users are coming to them from Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. They're going to be using these funds to grow and scale their core credit business and also to expand their product portfolio by adding digital bank accounts, insurance, and wealth management products. All right, next up in the funding news, B2B automation platform Jiffy.ai has raised $53 million in a funding round led by 8 Roads Ventures. So Jiffy.ai helps businesses to automate different aspects of their business through low-code customizable solutions to boost efficiency and also to reduce their operational costs. They're going to be using these funds to scale their sales and marketing efforts and to strengthen their AI-enabled no-code automation platform, Hyper apps. All right, next up in the funding news, B2B seafood marketplace Captain Fresh has raised $50 million in a funding round led by Process Ventures and Tiger Global at a $500 million valuation. They are halfway to becoming a unicorn, and that's a 2.5x valuation jump from their valuation back in December of 2021, which was $200 million. So today, Captain Fresh is fulfilling the seafood needs of 2,500 businesses across India, and they're clocking an annualized revenue run rate of $50 million. They've also started operations in the US, Spain, and the Middle East, and they're going to be using these funds to scale their international business further. All right, next up in the funding news, we're going to move into our rapid funding news item segment now, and I have 11 funding news items to share with you guys real quick. All right, so first up, we have data collaboration software provider Atlan, and they raised $50 million at a $450 million valuation, and they're going to be using these funds to double the size of their team in the next 12 months to accelerate their go-to-market strategy and to execute an ESOP buyback of up to $1.5 million. Up next, we have live game streaming platform Loco, and they've raised $42 million to strengthen their position in the game streaming market and eventually to offer Web3 products and services. After that, we have agri-tech startup Otipy, and they've raised $32 million to expand into new cities and also to offer new product categories. Following this, we have banking tech platform Zeta, and they've raised $30 million from MasterCard at a $1.5 billion valuation to jointly offer credit management services and a credit card processing stack. Up next, we have SaaS-based collaboration platform Hiver, and they've raised $22 million to accelerate their sales and marketing efforts, and way back in the day, we actually interviewed the founder of that startup, so if you want to watch that interview, it's a little bit old, but you can find it in the top right corner of your screen. After Hiver, we have health tech startup DeepTek, and they've raised $10 million to invest in global outreach and to secure key regulatory approvals. Following this, we have fintech platform Junio, and they've raised $6 million to add new product features and also to scale up their customer acquisition efforts. Next, we have beauty and personal care startup CureSkin, and they've raised $5 million to grow their customer base and to expand into new categories. After that, we have neobanking solutions provider CredoPay, and they've raised $5 million to boost product development, customer acquisition, and marketing. Up next, we have farming as a service provider Oorja, and they've raised $1.2 million to fund their agri-energy infrastructure projects and to scale their operations in existing and new markets in the next 18 months. And then finally, we have esports gaming platform Gamerji, and they've raised $1.1 million to strengthen their technology platform, to build more social features for their gamers, and to expand into the Middle East and North Africa and Southeast Asian markets. All right, that is all the startup news that I have for you guys this week. I really hope that you enjoyed the video. I know I say that every week, but I really do mean it. I hope that you guys are enjoying these weekly startup news episodes, and I hope that you guys are learning something from them each and every week. Big thanks now to all of our Backstage with Millionaires members who support us financially, our unicorns, our decacorns, and our hectacorns, and also big thanks to you for watching this video through to the end, and I will see you in the next one.